So this goes to our next topic, education and representation. So why do you believe curriculum representation such as ethnic studies and LGBTQ plus history is so important in schools?
It's how we defeat fascism. It's how we build empathy. Yeah, it's how we come to understand that we are more alike than we are separate. And so by making that space, we're able to see that. And again, this is more for future generations, but future generations who are born up with that will be able to do a lot more when they inherit the
Mhm.
world we will leave you behind.
So I know we talked a little bit about this with the independent housing programs and like teaching students, but how can schools support students experiencing housing and or mental health challenges?
I mean, well, we definitely need more mental health. We definitely need more mental health services, and we need more mental health culture. Instead of homeroom, or let homeroom be the place where you work on your mental health and your regulation or building resiliency skills.
Mhm.
Let there be as many therapists and social workers, as there are school resource officers or police that roam your school. Um, start by paying teachers what they're worth,
Yeah.
because they're the ones who hold youth, right, from K through 12. And if you pay them what they are worth and what is required to sustain their lives, they're going to be able to show up for you a lot more and hold more for you.
What advice would you give to trans youth or BIPOC students who feel left out of the political conversation?
I would tell them that the conversation isn't always the place that you need to be, and your actions can also speak a lot louder than your words are. We've spent a lot of time trying to be heard and get everyone to the table, and now the table is a little crowded, and we can't really hear what any one person is saying, but what we can feel is that federal minimum wage hasn't changed.
Mm.
There's still not a state where 40 hours a week can, sustain your life. There's still a lot of systemic ish. And so your actions can be louder than your voice. It's who you build community with and who you refuse to build community with. It's where you choose to spend your money and who you choose to boycott. These are political actions. Life is political. Let's focus a little less on being heard and seen and a little more on being felt.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the homeroom idea, just discuss it because I found I my school, my middle school that I went to, we had like a similar, I guess, idea, concept where the teacher would like lead like little mini activities about mental health. And
Yeah,
um I think that it definitely the culture of mental health is something that needs to change because there was like a lack of participation for some fields, and there was like downright bullying in that home
hmm
where those activities were taking place. So I that's something that I wanted to discuss is yeah, this culture definitely needs work, and
yeah,
we as a community should work towards changing that culture.
absolutely. And I think like that's, part of the reason that's partly where your voice is so powerful and your peers, like especially like either currently experiencing high school still or like having just got out of that, your experiences are fresh. So that's when it's time to go back and paint those pictures with the school district, with the
Mhm.
with the governor at the state level, and actually bringing them your vision about what it looks like, and then building coalition with folks like me. Like I do school safety research, so my questions are mostly like, how do we build up a safer climate for all students? And so, yes, we need to focus on mental health, not just in terms of the services, but in terms of the culture away from discipline and punishment, right?
Yeah.
Because when you get to be a PhD, you get to read a lot of articles, and that's can sort of put you off because you realize people actually have been talking about this for years. And it's frustrating. Again, back to the thing you got to question. Why have things stayed the same?
Mhm.
Because we understand that young folks are going through their own developmental stages. That development is chaotic, right? And it really does take a village, right? From your immediate family members all the way through your teachers and everyone in school, the people you're going to see until you're 17 years old, right? We are all responsible for helping you all reach adulthood safely. And a lot of that happens in schools. So when we punish, when things go on your permanent record, suspensions, expulsions, I'm not saying there aren't consequences, but
Mhm.
we do seem to understand that a lot of what we see folks in K through 12 exhibiting is a part of natural development. So let's support people in regulating. Let's support people in using their words instead of their hands. Let's
And not
support people
suppressing them.
and not suppressing them. Let's normalize talking about feelings first, right? And often.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how we change a culture, and that will have direct correlations on bullying. Can't say it won't eliminate bullying, and certainly not in one generation,
Mhm.
but it'll reduce it significantly, right? And then as those kids become adults, become parents who teach their kids, we can shift our humanity in that direction. Um, so yeah, absolutely. You got it. And I'm happy to
Mhm.
hear that, like, you were able to have a middle school that was at least trying
Yeah.
because so many don't. And then, did you go to school here in California?
Mhm. Yeah.
So then we're incredibly privileged in a way because California often leads the country
Yeah.
in piloting innovative approaches to a lot. So all of our peers across, particularly across the Midwest and the South, I don't have it like that.
Yeah.
Nobody is thinking about them like that, right? So that's why you might hear in the discourse people talking about California and the West Coast like they're so separate. And in a way, it's because we kind of are, right? We get a lot of things that people don't. So, after you have successfully brought mental health programming to California school culture, the work doesn't end there. We've got
Yeah.
to bring it to the rest of the country.
The work never ends, truly.
Oh, truly, the work never ends. Yeah.
All right, so we're down to our last topic. This is wisdom for the movement. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, I feel like our discussion kind of pivoted towards this question, but how do you define success when it comes to social impact?
Define it by, how relaxed. That's probably better. Safe and relaxed. Like the quality of people's exhales. The exhales are the people that I love. Like, how deeply do they just get to settle into themselves and breathe? For youth and for marginalized community, I measure success by them being able to see themselves in the future,
Mhm.
right? So back when I was talking about dreams, them being able to dream, um, perceptions of future self is like the academic term for it. And it's like being able to be like, yeah, I see myself in the future. I know I exist. I know that I have access. I know I have community. I'm not rejected. I'm loved. I'm seen. I've developed expertise. I am sought after. Like just seeing young folks know that they have a future here rather than feeling like they have to fight daily. And community is honestly getting to complain about other problems.
Yeah.
We have other problems in the world that have to be answered, right?
Mm.
Um, you know, I'm sure that it's not just billionaires who would love to dream about space exploration. It's
Mhm.
not just, wealthy folks who would like to think about cancer cures and but we need all hands on deck for that. And in order to have all hands on deck for some of those humanity-wide problems,
Mhm.
we sort of got to address the basics,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy to think that housing is a privilege when all human beings need shelter. It's crazy to think that some people don't deserve food when human beings from the most rich to the most poor requires food to sustain,
Hmm.
right? These aren't privileges. These are requirements. They're necessities. So, when we can make, and it's also a lie that there isn't enough for everyone. So, you know, we sort of need to address these issues so that communities can start talking about other problems, joining the conversations about other problems.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
That would be how I would measure success. We're finally able to stop talking about things that my grandmother, had to
Hmm.
march for,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I get it.
Mhm.
And then this is our last question. So, what's something you think young activists need to hear more often?
That people in politics are going to try and make you feel like you're too young to know what's going on. And that's a lie.
Mm.
Um, you younger folks, the only thing that you may not know is what it feels like to be an adult, to be grown, to have your back hurt, to have your knee hurt. That's it. That's honestly it. Because you have one of these,
Yeah.
right? And we live in a technological age. You are actively impacted by this world
Yeah.
that 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 the politicians are making you feel like you're too young to have an input in.
And I think
Uh,
the
mhm.
lived experience aspect of it, I feel like even though I may not have that, I have community like you who I talk to and I learn about these things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But you also see if
Yeah.
you're on Instagram, you see what's happening in the world. And so, this is very different from when I was your age or when I was even younger, right? Like we did not have the iPhone. We didn't have cell phones yet. Yeah, they were ugly. But the only way that my child self could understand what was going on is if my parents were watching the news and I was
Yeah.
sitting there watching it with them and listening to them talk about it with each other.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Now you just
September
see it.
11th. Yeah. Now you see it. Right?
Hmm.
So, um, don't let people, that's ageism in politics. I personally feel like if 18-year-olds who are legal adults, but still human young people are old enough to die for this country, then why can't 17-year-olds or 16-year-olds cast a vote?
Hmm.
You know, I have
Yeah.
questions that just aren't, we still allow, and this is maybe where my ageism I'm working on it comes in, is like we still allow children to go to war and die for us,
Yeah.
but young children cannot vote.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, right? You can drink because you said that you will go die for this country, but you can't cast a vote.
Hmm.
That's crazy to me until you're 18. So, yeah, I just want you, your colleagues, and everyone that you're reaching out to really just to know that like don't accept that when they tell you that,
Yeah.
find people like me. We want to build with y'all, right? Like we see your brilliance. We understand that this world is yours to inherit, right? And we have a terrible pattern of inheriting the mess of the generation that preceded us and spending all of our time trying to fix that mess, creating a bigger mess and leaving it for the people that come up next. So
Yeah.
in order to break that, when y'all inherit this mess, which I hope millennials just skip, let Gen Z folks in, remember just to reach back. Remember that young people are as apt to shape our society, and don't make them wait.
Yeah. You gotta get the
So
boomers out.
that's right. That's right.